Hey everybody, today we look at MIDI Designer by Dan Rosenstark. Okay, first off, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to Jakob Hack for mentioning me on his channel. I'll put his link in the description below too. You can check out what he does. He does a lot of stuff with the iPad and making music, and I really like his workflow. He's been an inspiration to me. He's actually gotten me to re-download some apps that I haven't used in a long time, and I'm finding new ways to make them useful again. So be sure to go check out his channel, along with the Sound Test Room. Those guys make some pretty decent videos for the iPad and such. So a few other things. So be sure to check them out. Now let's get on to business. Okay, MIDI Designer is a control interface app used to design graphic interfaces for MIDI software and hardware. Utilities and tools within the app allow you to control parameters that may otherwise be inaccessible, or give you the ability to control many parameters with just one control. In this multi-part series, I will be designing a control interface from scratch. MIDI Designer can be used to create services that work within your iPad, but I will be focusing on designing a control to use with a piece of hardware. Now, as stated a few times before in some of my previous videos, I had lost one of my iPads. This iPad had a control surface I designed in MIDI Designer that I used with my DX27. I lost the data on this control surface because I was unable to back it up onto my cloud, and I didn't think to save it in another format elsewhere. Brian's tip of the day: find a way to back up your data, because if you lose it, you got to start all over. While losing several hours worth of work can be a real drag, the silver lining to this black cloud is that I'm given the opportunity to redesign my controller and to make a tutorial on how I did it. DX27 is part of the DX line that was manufactured in the 80s, with its most famous sibling, the DX7. Now, the DX series of synthesizers were among the first to use digital FM synthesis, using operators as oscillators for sound design. The operators were essentially a sine wave that could be used to modulate other sine waves to create more complex waveforms. Now, if you're looking for waveforms that resemble those of analog synths, well, you're in the wrong part of synth town. But the DX could nail bell-like tones and electric pianos very well. In fact, anyone who had a fair understanding of this type of synthesis could do well with programming gnarly bass tones and even some celestial-sounding pads. There, my friends, in lies the problem with FM synthesis. Because the DX line used a different architecture for creating sounds, most who tried to program a sound were met with frustrating results. The additive synthesis type design, coupled with the button and slider controls for programming, saw many owners of a DX synth sticking with the stock presets. Enter the MIDI Designer. It took until 2012 and the iOS platform for a comprehensive piece of software to be developed to create a control surface for easy parameter adjustment of the DX series. Now, I know there are some PC-based open source control editors for different things. I've got one for my FBO1, but it is kind of hard to use, and the user interface isn't very user-friendly. But this works well. Today, I will show you the basic functions of the MIDI Designer. We will start with the main volume control and then move into designing a control panel for operator 1. In future parts, we will then go into building the other 3 operators and any other controls needed for programming the DX27. Now, I'm going to start with just the layout in this video, and then the next videos I'll show you how to program the controls to actually operate, how this works. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm not going to be relying on a script right now, so I'll be saying a lot of uhs, and there might be some pauses while I do my work. But anyway, here we go. This is MIDI Designer. Was made by Dan Rosenstark. I will put a link to the Facebook page for MIDI Designer, and I will see about putting a link in the description for the app itself. I really liked this app when I first got it, but I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. And then when I got my DX27, I had a better idea what I wanted it to do. when I first used MIDI Designer, I was using it as mainly a control interface to hit a couple of things because I play live, and I needed some easy access buttons to hit certain notes for things to make life just a little bit easier when you're playing two instruments simultaneously. But that didn't last long. And when I got the DX27, I decided to make it easier to program. So this is what I did. Now, many of you may remember seeing a video early on before I became a YouTube channel. You can go back through my channel and find it. It's just a real short demonstration of what this can do. That was the original interface that I had. Well, starting from scratch allows me to do things a little bit differently if I choose to. And I plan on doing a lot of the same things that I did before, just because it worked easier. But we're going to start today with the basic layout, and I'm going to show you how to put some controls up and everything like that. In the next video, we will get a little more in depth into designing the actual interface for each operator. Now, the DX27 has 4 operators, but I'll only demonstrate making one operator and copying it because essentially they're all the same. They have the same controls, the same parameters, everything like that. It's just nice to have all 4 of them sitting up on the screen so that I can program on the fly if I need to. So let's get started. I have already set up a basic panel here. And the nice thing is you can choose by double tapping. It'll bring up your box here. And you can ask for texture and color. It'll ask you for LED color. It'll ask you for page names, etc. So if you go in under here, you can see you have several different choices of colors and textures. For instance, if you wanted to go, say, green, you can get a green brushed metal look, or the pulsar, or, oh, here's an interesting one. Let's do this in a different color. There we go. Something like that if you so chose. You can really make it not look boring. There's plenty of choices, but I have chose the brushed metal look with black because it most resembles the texture of my DX27, and that's where I want it. Now, I've also set this up because I want this to be all on one page. So I think I set this up when I did the configuration. Let's go back in here and look real quick. Going into the configuration page. Yeah, and I've got it set for one big page. So that means this whole layout is one bank. Like this bank is one page. Now I can add more pages if I choose to, but I want to try and get as many controls on the front panel as possible without making it difficult to program. The nice thing about me having the iPad Air is it does have a bigger screen. Now I'm hoping to get an iPad Pro soon, so I'll have an even bigger screen to work with. But for now, this is what I've got. And originally, it was on an iPad 2. Next week, I will actually hook this up via MIDI to my DX27. And we will see how the controls will affect each other. And I will show you everything from designing the interface to programming the parameters themselves. So let's get started here. What you want to do is you want to be in design mode. And then you're going to tap the screen and a box comes up and asks you for what kind of controller do you want. You can have a button, a knob, slider, crossfader, XY pad, and this will come in handy for performances. You can put labels, multi-line labels, shapes, and panels, and you'll see me put all these things in here as we progress because I really want to make it easy to tell when you look at it that this is what it is. You'll see that in the other video that I made with this one. And I plan on making the layout very, very similar. So yeah, let's go back here to knob. And I want to add one knob for right now. Automatically a grid comes up. And then of course you see that the control is outlined like it's selected. And you tap and drag a corner. You can make it as big or as small as you want. You can move it around and snap it to a grid line. I'm going to put this probably right there. I'm going to make it at least that big. Now, I'm trying to keep in mind here that I want to be able to program on the fly. So I want the controls big enough that when I stick my big meat sausages of fingers on these controls, I'm not going to hit the wrong one and, you know, make some wild sound change. So I'm trying to keep in mind with the aesthetics that I want big controls, or at least decent enough size so that I can hit the controls without thinking too hard on and being very clumsy with it. The problem I ran into on my last build is I ran out of space before I ran out of controls. So what I might do this time around is make a second page with the sub controls, so to speak, the less important functions on the second page. Like for instance, on this main page, I want all the sliders for my envelope changes, my frequency changes, and my volume levels. And then buttons for portamento and so on and so forth. But on the second page, I'll put things like the LFOs and any other minor parameter changes that, you know, would make it a fully functional program interface. So we're going to go ahead and we'll do this. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you double tap and the actions come. So you can go in here under properties. You can change the label. So for instance, we're going to do this as the master volume. So let's go master. Okay, so we got that set. Subtype is normal. You can put, you know, you can change how many ticks you want it to go. So for instance, because it's MIDI, it's 0 through 127, and you have 128 ticks. You can change that number if need be. You can change the size from in here, or like I said, to do it the way that I did it. You can change the LED color, which I think I want to go that fluorescent green. I know that the controls for the DX27 are more that color, and you know what? Let's leave it that way. We'll do that. Let's shrink the volume, the label size down just a smidge. Oh, I guess it doesn't want to do it. So we got that, and then if we go in under MIDI, you can go in under your CC changes and change, for instance, like this one, I'm going to put it on CC7, which is volume, and hit apply now. Now it is a volume control. And I do not have this hooked up today. I will have it hooked up on the next one as we start getting into programming the controls a little more in depth. So that's where we'll go for that right now. So now, go back here and you can see it's programmed there. That is pretty much it. And then you've got advanced, so you can tell it, you can do more things to it in relationships with other controls, which we don't have to worry about any of that. So I just thought I'd show you those real quick. See, as you can see, you've got a nice range of colors here. Let's go back to that right there, 114. So, and what I'll try and do is next time I make controls, I want to try and nail that color. So we've got that there. And then as you can see, I've got it set up. It's got the label on it now. And if you exit design mode, boom, you've got your blank panel plus your master volume control. And as you see, when you work it, it goes up and down, and it's pretty sensitive. Okay, so we'll just set it right there for right now. And that is pretty much the basis of how it goes. If you wanted to, I can show you some of the other controls here real quick. Let's go on some buttons here. It will add a button, and you can change the size of the button. You can label them. You can change the color of the panels, etc. Let's see, what else do we got here? Sliders, because we're going to need some of those. So we've got a slider here, and again, same thing. And this is kind of how I left them last time too. I use sliders for each of the ADSR parameter adjustments, and I, wanted to do that. Let's see, crossfader, same thing. It's just a horizontal, but it can go between one and the other. Let's see here, XY pad. And again, you can, and the cool thing about this is, when you, exit design mode here, and you can do things like that. So this is basically where we're going to start on the next video. So until then, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed so far, and all of my contemporaries that I work with, Jakob Hack, for instance. Once again, thank you for the shout out, and we'll see you next week.